Right, welcome to week 2, year 11. Thank you for tuning in again. Hopefully this will be some use in answering your homework for this week. And we've got a picture source this week which is focused on a man called Lord Merpeth, okay, who was a member of the Board of Health, and it's in reference to the 1848 Act. So we know that there's two big public health acts in 19th century, 1848 and 1875. And I think most of us know that 1875 more or less comes about as a result of 1848, okay? But before we get into too much contextual knowledge, let's have a little look at questions. So, the question's essentially asking, and nothing too ridiculous really, how far does the source support the view that the Public Health Act of 1848 was a failure? So it's saying, to what extent does this source actually say that 1848 was a failure? Use the source and your own knowledge to answer the question. So as ever, make sure that you've got both details from the source, your own knowledge, and you actually answer the question. Okay, so when it's a how far, it's a bit of a red herring really. It's asking for both sides, both perspectives. One view that it does support the idea that the Public Health Act of 1848 was a bit of a failure, and the other side that it wasn't a failure, that it actually worked, okay? So let's look at a few things on the actual source. So if we look in detail, we can see it is a man called Lord Merpeth, this guy here, who appears to be throwing out information about the health of towns. It could potentially be representing the bill, the actual act itself, of the 1848 Act. So he's surrounded by pigs. You can see quite a few pigs knocking about, and not many of them are paying attention, if any, to the bills that are being handed out. Okay, so in the background there's some quite grandiose buildings, but if you look obviously on the floor, we've got the pigs and a fair bit of filth, to be honest, muck, dirt everywhere. So they're the things that we're going to remark on. Obviously, because it is a source question, then it's really important that you have a little look at the date and who may have produced it, okay? It's a cartoon from magazine 1848, so we know because it's from a cartoon, potentially it might not be that serious, it might not be that well respected, should we say. Or if it's a punch cartoon, it might be quite a topical one that gives people's opinions from time, okay? So, looking at these things in detail, how far does the source support the view that the Health Act was a failure? So his first bit is, essentially, yes it does, doesn't it? If you look at the source in detail, the pigs are ignoring the Public Health Act. Nobody's listening. So this could be in reference to the towns not paying any attention to the Health Act itself, and that people just got on with their daily business even though it was a government act. Or it could be that the actual towns themselves are that dirty. So if you look really closely, you can see obviously the pigs are living in filth. So again, that suggests that the Health Act of 1848 was quite a big failure. Okay. What it potentially doesn't do though, the other side of it, is that it doesn't suggest that 1848 wasn't a bad thing. Okay. 1848 is definitely a step in the right direction. So the first bit is that, yeah, it does support 1848 being a failure for all them things that we mentioned and all those things that are represented. But it doesn't suggest that really 1848 was a step in the right direction. So simply by producing the cartoon, it sort of infers that even though the act itself was relatively unsuccessful, that it is better than nothing. Okay, it's a much improved response on what's already gone on. And you only need to look at the conditions in the first half of the 19th century to look at that. So it is an improvement. Remember, you have got to use your contextual knowledge, you've got to use your details from source, and you've got to actually answer a question. And with it being a how far, you've got both sides. Okay. Again, it is 8 marks, so it's really important that you put down a substantial amount of writing for this. 8 marks should get you, well, not 8 marks should get you. You should be looking at 2/3, maybe more, for quite a good answer to this, depending on the size of your writing. Okay. In terms of your contextual knowledge, you also need to remember that it is 1848. What's happening in 1848? What's not happened? Okay, remark on things at the time, talk about conditions. In the 19th century, you could possibly talk about the cholera outbreak in 1848, which was the biggest one to date, even bigger than 1832. In addition to all the other things you know about the urban squalid conditions in terms of cesspits, lack of toilets, lack of access to clean water. So make sure you mention all those things, okay? Like I said, details from source, contextual knowledge, and answer the question. Hopefully this has been of some use. Good luck.